You know, I've been sharing the testimony of my darling sister with so many of us for years. Her testimony also helped me tremendously when my mother was sick. And I gave her a call and I said, Wini, please, can you tell me the number of that person again? And I just believe that her testimony, her story, and it's going to be a teaching moment. It's not just going to be a testimony, but even as she explains what she did, it will be, I believe, a teaching moment for many of us as to what we can do, you know, to bring about a change.
Really, really an honor to be here to give this testimony. My name is Wini Jemide, and this is my mother, Mrs. Beatrice Agama. The reason I have her sitting beside me today is because she walked the journey with me in its entirety. There might be things that I cannot remember, and she would be able to chip in just so that we get the full picture of what it was that the Lord did through natural things. So it was my son, he is 22 now, so this was 22 years ago. It would have been about this time, actually, about October or November, when I noticed that my urine was changing color, it was getting darker, and my stool was also becoming chalk-like. So I had a similar experience many years before. So this was now in 1999. I had a similar experience in 1986, and I'd been diagnosed with something called cholestatal jaundice secondary to furadantine, meaning that I had taken a drug, it's no longer in use, called furadantine for a urinary tract infection, and it had poisoned my liver. Fast forward to 1999, the same symptoms were showing, but I could not readily think of what I could have taken that would have caused it. So they were not entirely sure what the diagnosis was in Nigeria. And so we kept going back and forth in terms of what it could be. Eventually, they advised that I be put in isolation because they weren't entirely sure whether it was a form of hepatitis that was contagious, you know. So I had 2 small children at the time, and I was advised to isolate. We then decided to move to the UK, and my mom came with me. The illness was characterized with jaundiced eyes, a severe amount of itching. I would scratch my skin until my skin would blister. Sometimes I would use a brush or a comb. There was even a time I recall striking matches to just try and stop the itching. And after a while, I could no longer wear anything that had seams on the inside, you know, because just having anything touch my body would trigger a huge irritation in response. It was a very uncertain time, and we left for the UK. We were connected to a liver professor at a hospital called the Royal Free. And on arrival, we went straight into the hospital. And when he ran a significant, I remember they took blood and filled about, you know, the little vials in which you put the blood for testing, they filled 24. And they went off to start all kinds of tests. A few days later, when we reconvened, it was clear that the liver professor was very disappointed. I think he had expected to find some new sort of tropical liver disease and make history for himself. Unfortunately, this was liver disease due to amodiaquine poisoning, which means camoquine. I had taken some camoquine for malaria, and it had again poisoned my liver. Just because of the time we have, I'm going to jump to the end, just to say that years later we found out that I was GP.
About that. Please, Lola, can you mute yourself? We can hear you.
Okay.
I'm so
Yeah, so I
sorry.
was saying that we found out that the reason I had fallen prey to this condition twice was because I had a deficiency called a G6PD deficiency. And this was the reason why I had had this more than one time, because there's certain enzymes that the liver, put it very simply, that the liver produces to help break down certain chemicals, and my body simply wasn't producing those enzymes. Every time we tested, it was clear that the disease was getting worse. The liver was getting more and more ravaged by the poisoning of amodiaquine. Now the levels of the transaminase, I think that's what they were called, that they checked for in the liver, were not supposed to go beyond the unit of measurement was UL, and I don't know what that means in layman's terms, or UML, but it wasn't supposed to be more than 1.3 in a healthy liver in the bloodstream. However, increasingly we were hitting, so we went from it ended up being about 3,000 anyway. Wow. By the time we discovered an alternative route. I remember it got to the point where every time they would draw blood, we would pray over the blood, and then they would take it to test. They then wanted to do a biopsy, but my blood wasn't clotting, and so they had started me on a series of vitamin K injections, a treatment, a course of vitamin K injections to get the blood to clot so that they could schedule a biopsy. And at this time, the sure unseen hand of God stepped in, and my brother was catching the train to work one morning when he bumped into a lady who had done her A-levels with one of my sisters in the UK. And the conversation went to me, and my brother told her what was going on, and she gave us the name that you mentioned, Kitty Campion. I have to say, at that time, 22 years ago, holistic medicine wasn't popular at all, nor was the alternative healthier lifestyle, those sorts of options. However, as a family, at least my mom had practiced a healthy lifestyle for very many years in terms of the way she ate and the fact that she exercised and things like that. So a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits in her diet anyway.
How old is your mom now?
She's 86.
Can you see that? I just needed to draw attention to that what she's been practicing is working. She's looking far younger than that.
But she still does that. She still eats in a very healthy manner, much more healthier than I do. She still exercises and, does all of those things that she had kept faith with for many, many years. So we then went off to see Kitty Campion. The liver professor was not in support of this at all. Didn't encourage us at all.
And by those times, they had told you that you needed a transplant, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
You missed that point.
No, that was why we were doing the biopsy. Well, we were
to have done a liver transplant, which wasn't favorable with us. It didn't go down with us. In fact, everything in her body was yellow, because there was a time when they said she shouldn't take any chemically, any medicine that was chemically made. And we were even sent to a gynecologist to now help us do something so that
take out the coil or something like
that. Should we go home? You returned with the coil. The coil was put in that you shouldn't take any. Yes, we hadn't gone to that point. Okay, let me leave her to carry on.
Okay.
Well, what I think the point she makes is that when I would clean my ears, it would be yellow. If I had any vaginal discharge, it would be yellow. If I blew my nose, it would be yellow. So the jaundice was everywhere and was, it was trying to get out of every opening possible in the body. But you are right, the scheduling for the transplant was dependent on the biopsy. But in the lead up to the biopsy, my blood wasn't clotting. And I think that was just God's hand stepping in. So fast forward to meeting with Kitty. And it's a bit, I'm not entirely clear. By this time I was fed up, I was tired, weak. And so I'm not too sure what our initial meetings with Kitty entailed. But what I do remember was not wanting to try all the things that Kitty was suggesting. There was a lady on the first day, there was also, or the second day, there was a lady there who had breast cancer. And it had ravaged 70% of her body, and two of us were to start the program together. Anyway, my mom then said to me she would do everything that Kitty said along with me. So she became like my coach, so that I wouldn't have to ingest all the things that I felt were horrible and awful at that time. And it's amazing that even when you're facing death, you can still frown at the options that you're given for life. Because I certainly didn't want to drink any of those things that she was suggesting. The first regimen was charcoal, where she said, because charcoal for 3 days. There were these charcoal tablets that I was to chew because they were to absorb the charcoal is known for absorbing toxins.
Yes, that's what charcoal does.
So we started on that regimen, and Kitty was very strict. She basically said that if we didn't keep to the regimen, she would kick me off her
program,
client list. She wasn't a doctor, didn't have a background in medicine, but had grown up in Kenya. And I believe the housekeeper's husband or the housekeeper's father had an interest in herbs and vegetables. And so she, as a young girl, even though she was a British, she had returned to England, she had learned a lot about herbs and things like that in the UK. Again,
I spoke with her. She was also under the tutelage of a doctor, a naturopathic doctor in the US called Dr. Scholl's, the herb doctor. Yes, she was he was her mentor. He was training her. He graduated from the School of Herbal Medicine in Canada, Dr. Scholl's, and he has a website called Herb Doctor. So he was actually her mentor.
Okay, so we started with her, and then immediately after that, we were given some instructions. But the one I remember, I think Mom will give a few. But the one I remember was I was supposed to have the 6 carrots blended every morning, and a crushed clove of 1 whole garlic, and lemon juice. I can't remember how many lemons.
We just wrap it up by saying that it was all juicing the vegetables and
but those ones, especially the carrots, were particular to the liver. And that was what I had first thing in the morning. So on an empty stomach, that was the first drink. Then she also recommended colonics. She also had something called wheat grass. But one of the things she said was that we were not to chop our vegetables and leave them. That the sooner we consumed the vegetables afterwards, the more potent they were. So the longer you leave your vegetables on a counter, the more it loses its potency and its medicinal powers. So the way they did the wheat germ was they brought those into her office daily, growing fresh on a tray. She would pluck them, blend them immediately, and we would consume them. She did everything alongside me. The colonics were not ordinary. She would there was also something, some herbs that were like a tea bag, or sometimes that she would induce into the water for the colonics. So that's even
she was doing the colonics herself, or she sent you for a colonic? Yes. Was she doing it herself?
She was doing them herself. They were herself. And then she put the wheatgrass into the colonics as well sometimes. At this point, after we had done just juicing for a number of weeks, we now graduated to being able to eat food, but the food had to be entirely vegan, meaning it hadn't been touched by pesticides, quick ripening products, or fertilizers, and it was also completely non-dairy. But even when we moved to those, we didn't cook them. So like the wild rice would be put in a flask with boiling water and left in the flask for 12 hours, and then we would 24 hours overnight, okay, and then we would eat that. So porridge, oats. So the same thing with
You were
oats.
preserving all the nutrients. She was ensuring that you got all the nutrients without heat denaturing or destroying any of the nutrients.
Exactly. Exactly. And now my recollection of what mommy was saying earlier was that it was when we started this regimen that the jaundice started trying to find a way out of the body. So everywhere, every opening, the jaundice was coming out. You know, I broke out in pimples. You bust the pimples, it's all completely, entirely yellow. You know, it was like the body was now
cleansing itself.
Wow. Yes, self-cleansing. Is there anything else you recall? A lot of salad.
Oh, your voice have gone, yes.
Sorry. One health store, it was somewhere called Camden Town, and we would make our way to Camden Town to buy the things that we needed, but nothing was cooked and nothing nothing was cooked, and the first thing that hit the stomach had to be her regimen of juiced vegetables and so on. Now, something very significant was that she did not believe in piercing the skin at all. So she had a machine that was developed in Germany that would be attached to certain points at the soles of my feet. And those machines would essentially give a reading of what was happening in the bloodstream. Those markings would every time match the blood work, because we're still going to the hospital to do the blood work. So without piercing the skin, the diagnosis and the results matched what the laboratories were telling us. Yeah.
Wow.
So it attacked the cleansing from the gut, that's the colon, like, you know, from down there. She attacked it from what I was ingesting as well.
And how long was this regime for? How long did this go on for? We can't hear mommy.
Little loud. Oh, within 3 weeks, people were beginning to see some difference in her, because she was yellow all around, everywhere, you know, you see. And people were beginning to say, oh, Wini, you know, you are changing. And that was how it just continued, you know. And it didn't really actually, it was not completely gone before we left.
It wasn't radical.
Yes.
No,
the professor actually told us that she would never be the same again, that the liver would never even be the same again.
Yes. That I would never recover fully. I would never be able to carry another child. I've had 2 children since then. So I would say we were on this regime strictly with Kitty for about from January to maybe the end of March, early April, maybe 3.5 months.
So even after you returned to Nigeria, you continued, after we returned,
it was difficult, but we did the best that we could. The difficulty being, how do you know what is vegan? How do you know what has not been touched by pesticides? You know, how can you actually tell? We had no way of knowing, because that is not the way things were grown at that time. Even when it seemed like it was coming fresh from a farm, if you had a factory close by the farm and that factory's wastes were running from the farm, you know, and out of its own facility, you can't tell what has gone underneath the soil or how those things had been affected. But we continued to do the absolute best that we could. Now, having said that, when we left, when we severed all ties with traditional medicine, the results of the blood work had not changed significantly. But what you could see in terms of my outward appearance, what you could see in terms of my stamina and my strength, certainly led us to make the decision that we would sever ties with the normal traditional medicine, we would return home and just adopt a cleaner, healthier lifestyle. And that was what we did.
And this was 22 years ago.
It was 22 years ago.
And
yes.
You had 2 children after that.
Yes, indeed.
And you are still going on.
Very soon after I got home, and when we called the liver professor, he advised an abortion because he said with what the liver had gone through, he called the liver the powerhouse of the body. Yes. And he said with what it had gone through, there was no way I would be able to carry the pregnancy to term. And so we named the child Praise.
You named the child Praise. You did have the child. Praise God. Wonderful. As I said, your testimony always excites, you know, every time I've shared it over and over again. Some people know Kitty Campion without meeting her. And so so what you were saying was that, like, for at least for 1 week, you didn't eat any food. You were just on these vegetables and this cleansing fluid.
Mom says it was more than 1 week, maybe about 2 before.
Just went on. Yeah, it was actually more than 1 week, but because the juices, she gave us timing, and it must be done accordingly, you see. So they were enough to sustain us. In fact, I went into the regime with her as well. So it was enough to sustain us. And then, of course, when we were put in non-cooked food, that was, a step forward. It was good. It was quite healthy.
It was. Anchovies, not that tasted like meat. What is anchovies? It was artichokes.
Artichokes, okay.
But there was another thing.
Tofu.
I love tofu. I love tofu.
So,
wow, we are losing you. You are breaking. We can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear us now?
No, we can hear you.
Uh-oh.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, it's an amazing thing because that particular child of mine does not eat, is vegan as well. That particular child he maintains a strict, healthy regime, drinks water more than he drinks anything else. And so does one of his sisters. So I have 2 children who have maintained that regime as well. Oh, it's going to go. Never. Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
So we might go off at any point.
Okay. Well, I think we got as much as, I'm going to share. And please, I will encourage that if you have questions, please go ahead and ask your questions. And then I'm going to get Dr. Rhodes to talk to us. I mean, you can see why, let me see, where's Dr. Rhodes? You can see why I am always excited. I was excited about having her on. Sorry, let me get back to this gallery view. Yes, Dr. Paula Rhodes, can you unmute yourself so that we can engage in a conversation? Because today is a conversation, and
I'm unmuted. That was powerful. That was very powerful.
That was powerful. Yes. I'm going to, yes. So I want us to
could have done it without help. It's when you're doing this because you're ill, you have to have a partner, someone who is doing it alongside you and is adopting the new lifestyle. Now, it's easier today with social media so that even you have someone in your home.
Wow, you are still breaking.
But at that time, I do not think I would have been able to do it alone.
I totally agree too. Yes?
Kitty said she was glad that I was there with her, because without me, she will not be able to manage it.
Thank you.
She did not even we went on the weekend, I think Friday or so, but she didn't want us to start immediately. I was very eager that we start immediately. She sort of laid out her plans. But she said no, she wanted us to go and have a think over it because she didn't want us to
jump into it. We had to be committed to the process. Yes.
Yeah,
We
somebody
weren't committed,
said
then we
special
couldn't. I mean,
thanks to
today
your
you can
mom.
buy everything, you can order it, but then you needed someone to make everything for you. Now it's a lot easier.
And I
So
remember,
I say that to say there's no reason why anyone cannot adopt this lifestyle today.
and you know, to add to your testimony, and I want to say thank you so much. You know, we thank God for mothers. And our testimony, I want to add that our testimony helped my own mother. And that is why I wanted to share this, because when my mother, even though she's going to be with the Lord now, but she had 4 extra years because of Wini's testimony. When Wini, I remember that testimony when my mother had, you know, cancer, and she was in the final stage. They gave her only about less than 3 months to live. And I called Wini and I said, Wini, can I please, I need to talk to Kitty Campion. I called Kitty. That's how I know all this information about Kitty. I called her, and my mother had cancer at that time on both breasts. I called her and she said she was booked. I called her in March. She said she was booked till May. That was, I mean, that she couldn't see. So I said, look, my mother cannot stay till May. They've given her less than 3 months. Please. And she now told me, okay, go and check Herb Doctor in US. He's my mentor. Go on his website and get his product. There was a product that was a package of 30 days detox. Get the product and put her on that detox. Just like your mother did for you, I worked with my mother.
We actually had, yeah, we did that as well. I forgot to mention.
You did that detox, 30 days. I worked my mother through that. We were juicing, just like you said, first thing in the morning. There was a book. I still have the book here. I did that regime with her. And my mother was able, I mean, the hospital were amazed at the turnaround. They had given up on her, even in the US here. They said they couldn't save her. They were just going to put her on palliative care, that she was gone. They were able, she became like a medical miracle, even though she still went on chemo, because, I mean, her case was so bad, you know, I mean, her breast was practically eaten up at that time. And she was able to survive everything. She looked healthier than me, you know, and she was able to follow the regime. I followed the regime with her for 9 months. You know, it was difficult, just like you said, it was difficult, but at the end of 9 months, she was declared cancer-free at that time. Unfortunately, she came back to Nigeria. You know, as you said, I wasn't there, you know, I feel bad a bit about. She came back to Nigeria, and I wasn't there to follow the regime. And as you said, there's a regime to follow. If you don't follow that regime and follow it through, you know, but the beautiful thing was that God gave her 4 more years, lovely years that I had with her, instead of, you know, she died peacefully in her sleep, no pain. If you had seen her face when she went, you know, it was like the most beautiful way to go. She just like slept off and went. And so I believe that, you know, there's so much we can learn from, you know, the natural way of helping our bodies to heal. And I have seen it. Your testimony helped me in helping my mothers, you know, have a longer time and a happier ending, you know, when she eventually went. And she actually went not because of the cancer. She actually went because she took a new chemotherapy that shut down her, you know, she had a new chemotherapy and she died that day. She had a new one. So, I mean, she, you know, so thank you so much. I know you have to go. You know, thank you so much.
I'm leaving mom here. I'm leaving mom with you, and then I'm going to rush off. But thank you so much.
And we're still having you. I just wanted to say, look at all the flowers. Wini is amazing with flowers, and she's going to be taking some classes with me for women. So watch out. She's an amazing, beautiful woman. Herself and her mom are going to be helping us with some classes on how to use flowers for health. So please watch out for that. Thank you so much, Wini, as you leave. We appreciate
Thank
what
you.
you have done.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. And so let me go back to Dr. Rhodes. So Dr. Rhodes, yes, I'm going to, so I have you as co-host. Yeah, okay, speaker view. Now, so can you speak to that? Because you are going to, what do you call it?
Yes.
You love talking about gut health.
I do.
And based on this testimony that you have heard, can you tell us a bit more about why this worked?
So that was an amazing testimonial, very powerful testimonial, just about the power of the body to heal itself when it's given the right tools. And what I heard her say was that she got sick the first time from a chemical, which probably destroyed, well, it probably had a number of actions, but one of them was probably to really deplete and destroy some of her natural microbiome. And we have a number of microbiomes. We have a major microbiome system in our gut, which the microbiome is a collection of bacteria and fungi and viruses and mostly very healthy, cooperative, good bugs for us, so to speak. And then a few not so good that we keep in balance when the other populations are high. We have a big microbiome in our gut, and probably the chemical really compromised that, which completely changed her body's ability to deal with the outside environment and the immune system's ability to deal with the outside environment. And she began to get sick. And then she recovered. And then it sounds like the second time she had a deficiency, which did not allow her to, respond to things normally. So she had to provide all of those nutrients and provide her body with what it was deficient in by going to that vegan diet, whole foods that were mostly raw, uncooked, so that they were highly concentrated in all the nutrients that they normally come in, plus a detoxification process to help her body expel the chemicals and the byproducts of the things that it had been trying to eliminate and wasn't able to because it didn't have the energy and it didn't have the nutrients to do that. What people don't realize is that our bodies are always kind of cleaning themselves out. There's always a detoxification process that we're in that takes energy and it takes nutrients, it takes resources. And our liver is the biggest organ that participates in that. There are others, but that the liver is really the biggest one and is very connected to the GI tract. Everything that we absorb goes straight to the liver through a specific portal system that it's like the red phone between the liver and the GI tract. All the food and things that are absorbed through the small intestine go straight to the liver to be processed, and then the liver detoxifies what needs to be detoxified and puts back in the blood the right amount of glucose, the right amount of, all the nutrients that we need. So it's the first stop after foods are absorbed for all of the things that we take into our bodies. And
so meaning that after you eat, everything gets dumped into the liver. And
absolutely.
Says, okay, liver, can you sort this out? Get rid of those things and then put some in my blood because it has to be pure. It has to be at a right concentration for it to get to the other organs like the brain, the heart. And the liver is the one doing that crucial job. And you can imagine if that liver is not in a good state.
Absolutely. And, we can go for about 3 weeks without food. We can go for, I believe it's about 7 days without water. We can only go about 3 days or 4 days without sleep. But when your liver shuts down completely, you go very quickly. It's in a matter of a day. But typically it takes a long time and it gets sick, over time. And that's what she was experiencing, was that jaundice. Her liver was dumping bile into the system because it couldn't cope with the job it was being given. It had been poisoned. And through that very healthy diet And the elimination, you start with the elimination of the bad, and then just empowering your body, giving your body all the good nutrition that you can. You refortify the diet, the liver, and you give it the ability to then begin to eliminate the toxins and do its job.
And I've heard so much about this, I love the fact that she talked about starting with activated charcoal. I was reading somewhere, not so long ago, that we don't know all the power of charcoal. That, for instance, in our culture, we just think it's only good enough for starting fire. So it's good for starting fire, but starting fire inside and getting rid of all the strangers, all the toxin. But now there's a big you have all kind of activated charcoal now that you can take in, and that it has been shown that charcoal actually absorb toxin. But then you have to ensure that you are taking a lot of water, because you want to be able to get rid of, you don't just want the charcoal to absorb the toxin and stay inside. You want the charcoal to absorb the toxin and get out of your body. And so it's like a binder. It binds the toxin and then get rid of it, So it's so interesting that they started her with like 3 days of chewing activated charcoal to start with removing the surface, maybe the surfacey toxin. And then she went through the deeper detox to now dig into the cells. And that's the juicing, the lemon, the olive oil. I actually have the regime, and I can share that. The olive oil, the lemon, the garlic, those now dig into the cells. And then she went through that for like 3 weeks. It's called and then she now went into going back to eating, and then eating food in their close to natural state. Because cooking, as much as cooking is lovely, we love to cook, I cook, but when you are that sick, you want all the nutrients, so that was why they avoided putting heat under the food for that period. She didn't have to do that for life. I'm sure she cooks her food now, but for that season was like an emergency. She had to ensure that her food was not touching heat to conserve all the nutrients and to have it. That is an amazing and then she was doing colonic, and she was doing it, and that is beauty. I asked, was she going to a spa? No, she was doing it. So you can do colonic at home by yourself and put some herbs in the water. So for those that do not know colonic, it's those things we do for children when they have constipation, where you pass a tube into their anus and you pump in water, warm water with some herbs, and then you allow the water come out. That is as simple as that. Is irrigation. She did that. So she was doing it from both sides just to get rid of the poison in the body.
Yes, and it works. And she mentioned that when she went to visit Kitty, that there was a woman there who was being treated for cancer. The same regimen also helps people who are sick with cancer, where the body's own processes now have changed. I mean, so we can't get into that too much, but I just say that to say it's, the body is capable, if it's given the right tools, of healing itself from even the most serious conditions that we know of. And the key is helping it do what it was designed to do, giving it the nutritional tools.
At this point, I want to ask if you have questions. I'm so sorry, Dr. Rhodes. If you have questions, can you start typing your questions on the chat box?
No, that's okay.
And to see if you have any questions, please, as we're having, this is a conversation, and if you have any questions, please type it on the chat box. Yes. Yeah, sorry.
So in the microbiome support, there's been so much lately in the last 5 years, the last 10 years, really, research on the microbiome. And, what we know about that is it's trillions of bacteria that live in our GI tract. For women, in the vaginal system, in our mouths, in our ears. There's many on our skin. there's a number of microbiomes that we have actually, and we're more bacteria than we are human cells by number. If you were to count them, the number of our human cells is actually far outnumbered by the number of bacterial cells that live in us or on us. And for some people, that's a horrifying thought, but really it's simply the idea that life is it's a group event. It's something that we do together. We don't live independently of other life forms. We actually live very interdependently with other life forms, including the plants, including the other animals in our world, and certainly including the bacteria. And so much of our culture has, especially lately in light of COVID-19, been very antibacterial minded. And that might not be the way that we've really evolved to live. We've survived, many, many centuries without hand sanitizer and antibiotics and vaccines somehow. And now we're finding out that if you harm your microbiome, especially in the gut, you can create not only very serious physical disorders, but mental health disorders, that it's connected to our mood and our mindset, our mental health. It's connected to everything, all aspects of our health.
Thank you for sharing that. Saying that, because we live in a world now that we feel, it's so ladylike to have a hand sanitizer, bacteria, and just do this, and it's nice to be clean, but be careful, because sometimes, like we said, we are more bacteria than we are cells, and we need those bacteria to help us. And when you clean off both the good ones, you kill both the good ones and the bad ones. So washing hands with water and soap is good. Always using the bactericide, always doing that is not healthy. You can use it from time to time if you've touched a dead body or a dead something, or you have touched something that is very harmful, but not on a daily basis. That you're always, having to use sanitizer. Also, be careful of what goes inside you. Look, a lot of what has, the origin of the problem was, some antibiotics or some medication that she took in. Be careful, sometimes, just be more sensitive on the things you put inside your body that you can't see, because you are not sure how your body is reacting to it. Read more about things. Don't just assume. Because it worked for A's body is different from your body. It might not have the same reaction. So even if you are prescribed something, take time to go and read more about it and ask more questions. Don't just sit down there and assume that, okay, it's going to be okay. And, and then immediately you are feeling uncomfortable, stop and go and check. Don't just assume. Learn your body. Be at home with your body. Learn your body's signal. So if you have something in you, and all of a sudden you are beginning to feel uncomfortable, then check. And start asking yourself, what is that new thing that I've introduced into my system? That might be it. And so that is very, very powerful. Also, some people were asking about, and we are going to soon show some of the programs we have about how do I live this healthy lifestyle. We actually have 2 challenges coming up, 2 challenges. We have a detox challenge with, we got Dr. Joe Exposito. He has a detox product that is a good start for people who feel that I really my health needs this detox. There's also the detox, and I will share by Dr. Schultz that I used for my mom, and that is for someone that is really, really, really very sick, because that is like 30 days, and it's a job. Yeah, I tell you, that's a job, and I can share the link to that website. You can go on it and check. It's called I'll try to remember the name. I'm trying to remember the name of that, but I will share that.
The herbdoctor.com.
Herbdoctor.com. It has a 30-day detox called Can you just Google Herb Doctor? Yes. That 30 days was what I used, and that was fantastic. But that takes a lot, just like they said, takes a lot of work. Somebody has to help you out, and it's really for someone who is really, really very sick and really needs that change now. But if you just want to do a regular detox, you can do the one with Dr. Joe, or you can do even yours at home, where you mix, but you have lemon in garlic, and just drink it to detox your body. And so we are having the detox challenge. In addition to that, we are having the WAM challenge. WAM is for 3 months, Wellness Advocate Movement. And that one, we are all working together as a group. We are all going to be changing our lifestyles. It's going to be focusing on physical health, mental health, emotional health. And every day we are going to be doing certain things, and we are going to be checking in every week. And so if you're interested in joining this bandwagon to change our lifestyle, to change our bodies, to become healthier mentally, spiritually, get closer to God, get closer to, improve our relationship, then please go on the WAM website and register for the WAM information session to know how to be part of this WAM challenge. The WAM challenge is free. The detox challenge, you have to order your product from Dr. Esposito, and the information is online. I'm excited about this. Do you have a final word to share? And before the Herb Doctor, I'm sorry, God help. And I just want to show something before we go. And I'm still.
Sorry, can I say just chip in?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. You had a man who spoke on healthy eating last week, I think.
Yes.
Which was very good, but I think that should always be stressed in each time you have your program. And Kitty once made a remark that she isn't a Christian at all, but she made this remark that we were only meant to eat vegetables. It's only from the fall of during Noah's time, when the earth was flooded, that it was after Noah's time that meat was introduced into the man's diet. So perhaps we should always be, in each of your programs, we should be emphasizing on the importance of vegetables and fruits. In some parts of the world, the uncooked vegetable and uncooked, meal is not so popular. But perhaps we could not. Can you hear me?
Yes, and I'm actually, can you see my screen? I was actually, as you were talking, I was about to share my screen so it's your spirit, our spirit was one. I was just going to share this with everybody as I rounded off. And just as I was about sharing it, you started talking about it. And can you all see my screen?
Yes,
we can.
Yes, so I was going to close with this actually, that this is my go-to in every day, is that I'm not an absolute vegetarian. I eat fish, I take meat, but but I reduce it. But I make sure that my vegetables, that is like an extra. And there are many proteinaceous food that is from seeds, like your legumes. And so you can get tofu. She talked about tofu. Tofu is amazing. Yes. It's made from soya bean. You can actually make it. I used to make tofu, and so maybe at one of our season we might look at doing our WAM, we will talk about tofu and all of that. But your meat, your protein should not be the biggest, or your chicken should not be the biggest part of your diet, like we see today. In Genesis 1:29, then God says, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit in it, and it will be for food. The first talk on food in the Bible, the first communication on food was in the book of Genesis 1 from the beginning. And then what was it about? It was talking about herbs and trees and, you know, growing naturally. And so that should be our go-to as much as possible. You know, we should ensure that we have seeds, nuts, fruits, vegetables. And then Ezekiel 47:12 says that fruit trees of all kinds will grow on both banks of the rivers. Their leaves will not wither, nor will their fruit fail every month, because the water from the sanctuary flows to them. Their fruits will be served for food, and their leaves for healing. There are healing properties in those vegetables. So our attitude towards food, why I shared this is that our attitude towards food should look at food as a weapon, not just as something to eat. But we should, as we are eating, we are looking at this is a weapon for me, a weapon to help my body stay healthy, for me to achieve the things that I have been designed to achieve. And so I always use the word food as medicine. Food is our greatest medicine. Food is our greatest medicine, water, and all that.